they had this thing on Piers Morgan. They had a panel,
Mm-hmm.
and what they were kind of talking about with Jake Tapper was like, okay, all that stuff in the book is stuff that was already out there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew that.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing special. And then Piers want to say, if the orange guy was acting like that, they would be all on it. And then my man Chuck Todd said, okay, then why isn't that the case?
Right.
There's this constant attacking Biden about this. But you notice no one ever talks about the actual policy that he was getting done.
Oh,
It's
sure.
it's all about this age thing.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? My man Warren Buffett is rocking and rolling at Berkshire. He's retiring this year,
Right.
but he was getting stuff done.
Right.
Why aren't we looking at the results? Why are we allowing the lies to continue? And I can tell you, man, that is one of the reasons I hate when people start talking about the Dems, and I'm talking about the Dems themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, yes, well, we do have issues. We do have things we need to work on. I'm like, shut up with that. Because when you say that, that's the only soundbite that is used.
Sure.
And it's used against you. The GOP doesn't do that. You have to be very careful and tactful. This whole thing with the hypocrisy of that orange guy and all the crap he's doing. First, you have the whole situation saying that he stole money, that Biden stole money,
Mm-hmm.
that they're the Biden crime family.
Mm-hmm.
So far from the truth. But they keep saying it over and over again, like
Yep.
you said before.
Yep.
But they're not talking about this orange idiot and all the things that he is doing to the emoluments clause. He's just ripping it up. He's like, F that. First term, he should have divested. But what did he say? And they just allowed it. Well, I'm turning over power to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that was.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to fight. It's hard to get the point across when you got basically 2/3 of social media, right-wing talking points, and you got Fox with over 50% of the market. It's hard to fight that. So when you do have an opportunity to grab the ear of somebody, don't mention that the Dems have issues. Don't talk about the things that they're not doing. Spend that time on the things that they have done. Because right now, with that orange guy just taking care of his pockets, he's taking money from the pockets of people I know. He's taking pockets from friends of mine that work with Job Corps. They're pausing Job Corps this month by the 30th. And you have idiots saying, well, it costs more to send a child to Job Corps than a 4-year school. No, that's a lie. That's
a lie. Yeah.
That's just a hardcore lie.
Right.
But it will be repeated over and over again. Not talking about the people that are losing their jobs. There's about 49,000 people in Job Corps that are going to be losing their job because this guy wants a tax break for the rich. And he doesn't give a damn about the small people, but yet everybody's so racist, got this hate in them, that they're willing to ignore all what is in front of them. Every single thing. While this dude is just eating up the emoluments clause, got us fighting over dumb stuff while we are not paying attention to policy. But this dude is taking this, running with it, and getting paid. I don't know where we're going this one, Howard. I really don't.
Well, I don't either. I mean, I don't know why it's not repeated more by media other than, well, not even other than. I don't know why it's not repeated more. But I hate framing, especially as somebody who considers himself a part-time journalist. I have a journalism degree. To call it the mainstream media or the left media. I don't mean that, but media that's not bought and paid for by MAGA. I'll put it that way.
Gotcha.
I don't know why it's not talked about more. I don't know why the American public, even those who maybe listen to right wing media, I don't understand why many of them, or at least enough of them, don't understand why it is dangerous for leadership in this country to align themselves financially with foreign interests. I don't
Right.
understand why they can't figure that one out for themselves or ask themselves that question.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that's very frustrating to me. Um, they have gotten very good. They are very good, very skilled at repeating things over and over and deflecting over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And as you say, the Democrats have not seemed to learn from that playbook. Now, I'm not saying uh, that you should necessarily use the same tactics as your opponent if those
Mm-hmm.
tactics are go against your morals or whatever. However, when something is being, when your adversary starts using firearms, I hate to put this in war terms, but I'll do that. If you're using if you're using bows and arrows and rocks, and your adversary starts using firearms, you better go get
Mm-hmm.
some gunpowder somehow, because
Right.
you're not going to be able to overcome that in any other way. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I don't understand with the Democrats, why they don't do that more. With the emoluments thing, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't understand the whole Trump Hotel thing downtown. I mean,
Yeah.
as a native Washingtonian, I just didn't like the fact that he bought the old post office and made the Trump Hotel. But that was well within his right to do as a
Right.
person. But when you become president of the United States, when you have a hotel right down the street from the White House, where foreign dignitaries are going to come and stay and pay
Mm-hmm.
exorbitant fees to stay in, and it's going to go straight to your pocket, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a real big problem. But not only at his hotel, but at Trump, excuse me, at Orange Man Tower, where they have Saudis, Russians,
Right.
they have all these people that have purchased property, and all they're doing is parking their money there, and
Right.
he's getting paid off for that.
He's been doing that for years. He's been
I
doing that
know
for
he's
years
been
though.
doing it for
For
years.
years though. But the thing that I just, and I don't know where you, I don't know why the American public is tolerating some of this stuff. Like right now, it's just wide open graft that's happening now. I mean,
Yeah, it
it's just
is.
this Trump coin, this Trump Bitcoin, whatever. It's not even
Yeah, the
Bitcoin,
meme coin.
meme
Yeah,
coin. So
yeah,
he's pretty much just selling baseball cards. I mean, trading cards, and they have no value at all. It's just
right.
money. It's just money going straight to the Trump family. Yeah,
Yeah.
in order to get time to stay with them. That is like the easiest definition. Like if I were teaching a class of a middle school class, say, what is bribery? What does graft mean, Mr. Fletcher? What does that mean? And I said, well, it would be something like, if you were the mayor and the only way you could get a meeting with me, or with you, if you were the mayor, is if you charged people money and they would have to pay this money in order to get to you.
Mhm.
That would be what would be considered graft. I mean, there are different, you can go into bribery and all that stuff, but pretty much it's profiting off of your public office. Um, for doing things that you're supposed to do anyway because it's your job.
Exactly.
That is what's happening now, and I don't understand why that should go out. That should be outside of party, in my opinion.
Hmm.
If I wouldn't stand, I would like to believe of myself, I wouldn't stand for that if it was a politician that I really respected and I backed into office. If all of a sudden he or she would start taking money for the wrong reasons, I would like to believe that I would want to put an end to that. But they
Yeah.
don't seem to.
Yeah, but most people don't want to put it into it. I've always felt when you look at the whole premise of lobbying, the average person can't fight that. The average person can't go in there with their concerns. A small community can't go in there with their concerns to their rep and talk about how a company down the road is dumping toxins in the water and toxins in the ground that are giving our kids and everybody else cancer. You can't fight lobbying. That's part of bribing as well. I
Right.
don't care
Well,
what
yeah.
anybody says. That has to go.
Yeah.
And Citizens United, that has to go. With that dark money,
Yeah.
this orange guy is taking advantage of that.
Right.
He has money coming in from all these spots and these super PACs. But where's it coming from? Did that 250 million come straight out of Elon, his pocket? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he got some other people to hop on board. And when you see what he was trying to do at Doge and this fantasy that the GOP is the party of fiscal responsibility, we need to attack that first. The DNC needs to be on that. And that's why I said they need these town halls. They need to go talk to these people in these rural areas. I mean, let's go back to 2017. And when they put that bill in place, when they put that law in place, it was for the rich. They got a huge tax cut from 35, I think, down to 20 and 19. I can't remember it.
Right.
Exactly. But I know it was big, at least 15. And then you have the national debt being increased by 1.5 trillion that year. And so when they're talking now, it's like people can't see that. Why would you raise the debt ceiling?
Right. Right. The thing about that blows my mind, what I keep hearing coming out of people's mouths, and I know it's not popular. Listen, no one likes spending money they've earned. That money they earn, they like to keep. I get that. No one likes being taxed. Okay, I'm not going to say I love being taxed. However, I like the benefits I get in this country. One of the reasons, and I've tried to tell my neighbor, I have a neighbor down the street who claims he's a libertarian. And I guess he is pretty much libertarian. He does not like Trump, although he voted for him in the first election. But he didn't vote for him this last election, so he says. He says he's libertarian, but he, hates getting taxed. You talk, well, he just bitches about getting taxed. And I said, well, where do you think these things come from that supposedly make us a great country? Like when they always talk about make America great again, go back into the day and all these things we did. And you even hear rhetoric coming from like these speeches that Stephen Miller has written about some of the great things America has done, and building things and the great highways, all that. All that stuff was funded by tax money.
Yeah.
That's how we got that built.
Yeah.
So number one, I think we all need to understand, this is one of the things the Democrats need to get home. We all need to agree, if we all like these things that we have, most of the people now who are the most active voters, when we were born, these things were in existence. When we were born, the interstate highway system was in place. The railroads were in place. The airports were built. We woke up in this world like this. All that was funded by mostly tax money, some private funds, mostly tax money. Okay.
Exactly.
So we need to start educating the American people to say, look, taxes paid for this stuff. Now, if we continue doing these things, like I just heard Johnson the other day, the Speaker of the House, talk about how the Biden administration increased spending in the last year of his term. You know why it is increased spending? Because they passed that infrastructure bill, the Build Back Better bill, which, yes, it took spending because we're going to build infrastructure. That increased the debt. So what we keep hearing from these folks is the only way to decrease the deficit is to cut things. No, that is not the only way to increase the deficit. To decrease the deficit. So the other way is to increase taxes. You got to increase revenue. And if you increase revenue, you could increase the deficit. And I'm just like, you can't look at one end of the equation, expect to keep our quality of life, and think things are going to stay the same. The math doesn't work. The math doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And if you increase taxes, and they've shown that if you tax the rich, history has shown that we are in a very good place.
We'll be in the black.
They need to pay their fair share.
We'll be in the black. We'll be in the black. Well, here's the other thing. Says the other thing is this, I agree with that's okay. Here's the answer to one of your questions.
All right.
What is one message that I think the Democrats can improve upon? I think they can improve upon pay their fair share. Okay, I agree. I agree with that statement. I agree with that sentiment. I don't think that plays to the rich, obviously, and to most of the rich, and to the aspiring rich, because they don't want to feel like they're not paying their fair share because they feel like they're paying enough. Because even though I might, as a rich, I'm not rich, but a rich person might pay a lower, they get a tax cut, their number is still pretty hefty.
Yeah.
So when you tell somebody, okay, I paid $1 million in taxes last year, you're not paying your fair share, that's kind of, they back up off of that. So you got to say this. We need to, when we talk about make America great again, we need to go back to, let's look at the tax rates back then where we were supposedly great. And then if you look at those, you'll realize, I think the corporate tax rate was 50%. I think something like that.
Yeah, it was high. It was high.
Yeah, it was high. It was what we would call unbelievably, ridiculously high. But that's what it was.
And you can't believe that it was that way when you
Right.
look at it now.
And so we got to they got to change the perspective. It's not about cuts. It's not about, and that's what the Democrats need to, and some have, but they need to really bring home the fact that the way they're trying to balance the books is on the backs of you all by cutting services. And this is the other argument I make to my libertarian friend is that I say, from my view, one of the things that makes us a great country as opposed to other countries that we consider we are better than, let's use the South African example.
Okay, all right.
Let's use that as an example, not the post-apartheid South African example.
You're talking about the white genocide that's happening.
Yeah. But let's just talk about that. One of the things that makes us great is that we have a large middle class. That we don't have a large percentage of our population that are just destitute, living like in India, like slum dog, in the mud type, mud huts type thing. We do have a welfare. We do have Medicaid. Those are the things that make us great. We can afford to take care of those who don't do as well as the rest of us. And I think that's a good thing. Now, granted, in doing that, that's why do you think we attract so many people who want to come to this country? That's why.
Yeah,
okay?
That's true.
That's why. So what I did, so the Democrats, one of the things, there are several things they can do, but they need to message that better to say, look, what we need to do is not just say raise taxes on the rich. This is what I'm saying when I say that fair share thing, because unfortunately in this country, I think if you start making that the message, you're not going to win that fight.
Why? Why don't you think you can win that fight?
Because the rich control too many of the late levers. There's too many things that they are controlling, I believe. I believe you have to say, and you have to say, yeah, okay, we need to increase taxes on the rich. But in the process of making them pay more, everyone might have to pay a little more too.
Why do we have to do that? Why does now everybody's paying everything? Okay. So why does it have to be that they got to pay a little more too? I can never understand that.
Okay, I'll tell, because that's the only way it's going to work. I'm telling you, in my opinion, that's why it's going to work. Because how is Trump trying to make it sound now? He's trying to make it sound now that everyone's going to get a tax cut. And and most people will get some sort of a tax cut, not the ones that the rich are going to get, but they're going to get a tax cut. So you got to say, okay,
well, that keeps them from not lying. That's just basically saying, I'm cutting taxes. You cut my tax from, 25% to 23%, and then it runs out in 5 years. That doesn't help. See, you're talking about not being able to get the message across. I hear why you're saying that, and that's been the case. That's what we've seen to work. But when I'm talking about this messaging by the DNC, you got Dems all over the place, and we're not being tactful. If we all just looked at the common things that we want to get done, that should be the message. When my family has a thing we have to get done, go old school. We have the family meeting and we talk about what we need to do. Going on a family trip, everybody gets on the same page. My daughter wants to bring this. My wife wants to go over here. My son wants to say, hey, when we get there, I'm going to go hang with these guys. Like, okay, but first, can we get there? You know what I mean?
Right.
Can we get there?
Right.
Let's focus on that. And the DNC isn't doing it. We're losing. We're losing ground. We got the GOP in-house. They are the minority of people. They may have the majority in the House and the Senate.
Right.
But as you look at everybody, they are the minority.
Right.
They're screwing over their constituents. This country is in a position where we could have universal health care, but there's too much money involved. So if that's going to be the way we're going to flow with it, don't cut Medicare. Don't cut Medicaid. They're doing it to all of these people, but yet these people still vote for them. They use a scare tactic. The people coming over the border are killing us. You can't fight that when they're saying it over and over again and they're not being corrected in the middle of an interview. Because I think that's important.
Oh, I think it's very important. I think it's very important. But unfortunately, and I can't. I've been frustrated by that. That's why I even went to go. That's why I even went to go get a master's in journalism in the first place because I was frustrated during the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump first election because there were no follow up questions, and I saw Trump going on the air saying all kinds of things. And, in fact, I even saw that there were times and I should go look. I haven't looked, and I'll see if I can find the clips for you and I can show you. But
Okay.
they were not just Trump, but Trump surrogates that were going on the air telling people that in his tax plan for the tax cut, that rich people were going to end up paying more taxes than they were before, which was like just absolutely ludicrous. Yeah, just ludicrous. They were saying whatever they wanted to say. They felt, and that's what seems to be happening more and more. And even if they are asked about it a second time, they're not presented with facts 9 times out of 10 that they can answer to, that they have to answer for. So I'm very frustrated by how the media does that, and a lot of that I didn't get to my point. A lot of that I believe is because they want access. They want access to the individual.
I don't understand why they want access to that individual.
Well,
Nothing he does, he people go in there and they're used. They're photo ops. Like all those brothers that support that idiot went to the White House for Black History Month.
yeah,
Every one of them. And one of them, King Randall, going back to the Job Corps. This dude posted a video the other day, and he's pleading that they're closing down this particular Job Corps location, and he's saying, when are our leaders going to step up? Why aren't they going to do something about this? You're taking away an opportunity for all these kids, blah, blah, blah. He's saying all this crap. But dude, the guy that you were partying with in the White House is why this is happening. Instead of asking where the leaders are at, look at the issue, call your boy, and ask him, why are you doing this? There are so many things that he's doing to hurt Black people, to hurt individuals. Job Corps gives brothers an opportunity. But these people out here think this guy is, a businessman, and they totally ignored that he can't bankrupt a casino. How the fuck are you going to bankrupt a casino?
he's failed in almost, and it sounds ludicrous because this dude is Satan, man. This dude he is used. I'm telling you, he is used. I think, if you were to, I'll give this to him. I think he has used white privilege he's maxed it out.
Mm, yeah.
The he has failed in every business that I'm aware of that he's gone into every single time. And
Hmm.
some of them are, like the casino business, you have to work at failing in, you know, not, that's what's so that, he's gotten into businesses like the casino business and professional football. Now, granted, he wasn't in the NFL, but in the
Hmm.
USFL,
Yes.
professional athletics, which are gate kept pretty much from the rest of society. I mean, you have to
Well, that's
be.
why he had to go to the USFL. The NFL, those owners didn't want him up in there.
Well, that's
Yeah.
and that's one of the well, I think I've mentioned it to you. That's one of the reasons why also the USFL failed is because Trump tried to bogart his way in there with bogus lawsuits,
Hmm.
which is a for those watching. I mean that 30 for 30, how Trump, I think it's called how Trump bankrupted or ended the USFL.
Mm.
That's required watching. Everyone should watch that
All
because
right.
that's his mo. He goes in
Hmm.
someplace, has some amount of success. You know, he was able to get my man from University of Georgia,
Oh yeah, Herschel
Herschel
Walker.
Walker, to come there.
Yeah,
That was a coup. That was a big deal. He got
that
big
was a
headlines.
big thing. That part right there was a big
That was a
thing.
big
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
So and
Because
so
Herschel was a man right then. He
right
was coveted.
and by
Yeah.
all rights, I mean the New Jersey Generals in my from the outside looking in my opinion, that could have been, and ultimately that's where the other ownership wanted to be. That could have been an expansion team for the NFL, but he couldn't. That wasn't good enough for Trump. He had to try to. He couldn't wait. He couldn't earn his way in. He couldn't do any of that. He tried to sue them for antitrust, and the NFL took him to task, and they were gone. So anyway,
Yeah, you know what? That was kind of idiotic because when did you have the Carolina Panthers and the Jaguars? Was that 1988, 1989?
sounds about right.
Yeah, they came into existence. The USFL, 1984, 85.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so if he would have just been patient,
Oh.
understood how to play the long game,
Oh
you're
yeah.
right.
Oh yeah. They had
Yeah.
a couple other. There were a couple other squads. There was that squad that.
What was my man he hate me on? What was he on? What team was he?
No, that was the XFL.
Oh, that's right.
That
That's
was the
right. That's
XFL.
XFL. That's right. My bad. My bad. Yeah, yeah. I love that guy. He hate me.
I love that name.
Greatest nickname of all time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There are a couple. There were more. There were a few teams. I think it was one called the Gamblers. There are a few teams that in the USFL that probably had a shot at being brought into the NFL. But
Hmm.
anyway, Trump blew that. So that's when I see brothers who are around who are like, oh, he's this great businessman. They just haven't done their homework. Like most people who support Trump haven't really done their homework. That's what I've found,
Right. Right.
which is terrifying, which is really scary to me. Is that there are, if you really, at least in my experience, if I talk to most people who are avid MAGA followers of Trump, when you ask them about the man, about what he's done,
Hmm.
their history is either flawed, they're mistaken about some of the things that he's done and the outcomes of those things, uh, or they just don't know about them because they haven't done their due diligence. They just
Hmm.
like the fact that he goes on stage and talks a lot, has a plane, and to them they think that's success.
And he disparages the poor,
Oh,
minorities. I
oh,
mean,
oh yeah.
we
Well, yeah.
see.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
That's a
but I'm saying that's one of the things that those particular people like.
right, right,
Yeah, they hop on that. I don't care what anybody says.
right.
When people
Oh,
say you're not racist, I'm then like, why are you for always talking about the crime in Chicago when you got Birmingham?
right,
You got New Orleans. New Orleans is number one in crime,
right,
you know, and you got Little Rock,
right,
St. Louis. But they always go back to Chicago.
right,
And they go back to Chicago so because there's so many brothers up there.
right.
Why can't people see that this is the racial aspect?
Well, so there a lot of people are in denial about that. I mean, this is just I just think the hardcore fact about about this country, which I've just come to terms with from I think probably the time I was a child. I didn't think about it at this term on these terms when I was a child, but there is a significant percentage, and I'm going to just throw out an arbitrary number. I'm going to pull out of my back end. 25% of this country is always going to be, there's a racist, misogynist, xenophobic element in this country that I don't think will go away in my lifetime. I'll put it that way. I don't think it'll ever go away because it's in the culture of this country. It's in the blood of it's in the root of this country. That's how we were founded.
Yeah.
And we were founded upon these principles. That's just it. So, I always have to back people off sometimes when they start talking about, well, this is anti-democratic and we weren't founded upon these. I have to slow them down a little bit. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh no, we aspire to that. Well, but let's not talk about what we were founded on and this country was built on and all that stuff, because this country was built on almost everything that MAGA is trying to prop up.
They want to go back to that.
They want to go
I
back
keep
to
telling
that.
everybody they want to go back to Jim Crow.
Right.
When they say, when that fool said that, they asked him, well, when was the time that America was great? They go back to 1950.
Right.
Let's look at black folks in 1950.
Yeah.
And this is what you can't get across the Negroes that are backing this fool.
Right.
They say all this stuff. They use their talking points.
Right.
And another thing, man, you know what another thing is, Howard? I'm always trying to get those guys to come on this show.
What? Yeah,
come on here, talk to us, explain to us, but they know, I told them, this right here, this smartphone is going to be checking your bullshit.
Right.
We're going to be checking it right here.
Right.
Because what we want to do and we need to do is bring people to facts. And if you have somebody like that on your show and you hit them with the facts and you see how dumb they are, how stupid they are. Look, I'm a little mad about this.
Yeah.
I hear these guys and I'm like, dude, we can't win with your bullshit. Right. I give it one guy I really can't stand. Umar Johnson.
Oh.
This guy is all over the map.
Right.
A black man can't date a white woman, can't date a Puerto Rican woman. Right. He says that no white person has ever done anything for black people. Right. And this fool is talking about, I'm building a school. That damn school should have been built 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So we're fighting guys like that because they have the silver tongue. Yeah, they're able to convince brothers that voting doesn't help. But yet that fool King Randall, him not voting, saying voting, that's not his fight. What is his fight is Job Corps, but yet you didn't vote. So now it's going away. And I just really have a big problem with Job Corps right now because I got 4 people that I know that depend on Job Corps. And it hurts. And another thing that they're trying to do is they're trying to take away the $10 billion that has been allocated to minority companies for these government contracts. And yet, of that $10 billion, white women get about 2/3 of that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Sure. So the one thing that we do have are these contracts, but the orange guy is trying to take that away because for some reason they say diversity, equity, inclusion is racial. But when it says inclusion, doesn't say exclusion, it says inclusion. That means everybody. But when you take away those rights or just point out those things to make sure that the civil rights of people are being honored. When you look at it well, I don't understand why we're fighting common sense.
Well, some of it, we're not fighting. We're not. They know the deal. See that when I have those debates with people, I just say, look, I mean, history is on my side on this one. We're left to their own devices. Ethnocentrism wins out. That's just the bottom line. Look, I wish we didn't need those things, but the fact of the matter is that if we leave a bidding process open without some sort of mandatory inclusion, we're excluded. And we are. And not because has nothing at all or very little to do with the we're just getting the best people possible. No, that's not it.
No,
That's
that's
not that's not that's
no,
not it.
no, because Pete Hegseth is a idiot. So is Caroline Levitt. I mean, if
Yeah,
you're going to
yeah,
be dumb
right,
and say
right,
those things, you got to at least be able to say it in a way where it doesn't just flat out insult our
right,
intelligence.
right. And so it's just like so that's why that's there. You know, I will get to me or the brothers that sit there and they say, because I know one who's like a big Republican in Montgomery County right now,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a engineering company, and he says, so I'm insulted if they give me a contract because of my because I'm a black owned company and stuff. Yeah, look, dig it. I understand that you want to compete on a level playing field, and I
Mm-hmm.
understand the fulfillment you would get, or the feeling you would get, that I was the best company out there, I won this bid, all this type of thing. But I just don't think you understand
He doesn't understand.
that if that was taken away,
Uh huh.
some of those contracts that you were just so proud about getting are not going to go to you. They're going to go to Bubba's nephew's company.
I hope it isn't somebody that you and I both know.
Well,
But
I don't think I don't think you I don't
look,
think you
look,
know,
I
but
just
I
hope
will
it.
talk about this off camera.
Yeah,
I'm not putting so shorty on blast,
yeah, yeah. I'm not going to bring up the person, but
but
what?
my thing is that I've had I just use him as an example. It's not just him. It's I've had similar conversations about similar things, whether it have to do with contracts that are being rewarded or people going to, getting accepted into universities or schools or getting hired for jobs or whatever. Listen, the fact of the matter is that, you know, ethnocentrism. See, I try to because just for the sake of having the conversation, I try not to label it with racism and bigotry, which I believe is the case. But when I say, I'll call it ethnocentrism. This is what I'll say: nepotism and ethnocentrism wins the day without laws or regulations being in place. And
Mm-hmm.
some of it's a natural uh, uh, inclination. Some of it has to do with hatred and other things.
Mm-hmm.
I say, when people get on people about nepotism, I tend not to, if the person who was put in that position, the who benefited from the nepotism is qualified. I have a harder time getting upset about it, because
Mm.
if I could do it, if I could hook up my nephew, I would do it if he was qualified.
If he was qualified,
I don't want to put my
yeah.
knucklehead nephew in a position where there was a better person for the job, but he just
Mm.
got the job because he was my nephew. That
Yeah.
that would be wrong. But
You also get resentment from the other employees.
true,
Yeah,
true,
yeah, that
true,
brings down morale, and that brings down work productivity.
true enough. So I mean, there's are times and places for that, but it doesn't even have to be. It doesn't have to be a blood relative. I'm just saying that if a friend, if you go through life thinking that you're going to eliminate personal connections, that's just you're just living in a fantasy land.
Yeah.
That's just not the way the world works. However, because the world works that way,
Hmm.
we need regulations in place or laws in place to help even the playing field so that doesn't happen as often. I don't understand why that all of a sudden becomes a big problem area from people because they want to misuse it. See, that's the thing. If you say people are, and we need affirmative action. Well, there are other reasons for affirmative action, so let me take that away, because I that that comes under the reparations bag for me, and that
Mm.
should be universal always. But as far as the like contracts, minority contracts, or whatever, those things are in place because if they weren't in place, y'all would just mess it up. Y'all just not going to do the right thing.
Going back to your guy, so he says, "I don't want to get a contract just because I'm black." I'm sitting there saying to myself, "Dude, you don't believe that you're good enough. You don't believe that you're getting those contracts based on your merit. Are you
No, no, no,
so
no, no,
okay?
no. I think no.
Okay.
Let me not miscarry. His
Okay.
his 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 point of view is that we're at a point now. He feels that we're at a point now in our growth as a nation that we should just take away all of those requirements or those laws or regulations or quotas or whatever you want to call, and that
Mm.
everyone should just be judged on the merits of their bid. Now,
That's
in
naive.
in
That's
like I said, it's naive. In
yeah,
a perfect world, I agree. But guess what? We don't live in a perfect world.
at all.
And the distribution of wealth in this world that we live in this country in which we live in, is askew, way off. And
Yeah.
so that's always going to be the case unless I feel we take some sort of regulation, some way to try to spread the wealth around.
In order to do that, we really got to protect the laws that we have
Yeah.
on the books.
Mhm.
But we are allowing, by not voting and putting representation in place that can protect that for
Right.
us, we keep putting we keep allowing this by sitting on the couch to let the progression that we've made to become regression.
Yeah. Well,
The
it
the
already
gutting
has.
of voting rights, the new suppression laws, the gerrymandering of districts. If we're in there, we keep that from happening. Look, I tell people all the time, okay, you don't want to generalize one party, fine. Take the time and look at those who are putting bills in place that help you. Some brothers want to say, well, that bill doesn't say black folks. No, it doesn't, because you don't want to have that situation where they're saying that it's racist.
Mhm.
But it includes everybody. And if we're benefiting from that bill, then we have somebody that's looking out for us.
Right.
But people are too stupid to understand that. And I'm going to be kind of harsh. The longer that orange guy stays in there, the longer I see the GOP talking at their constituents, saying, I voted for this big, beautiful bill because it's going to do so much.
Mhm.
The blatant lie to people, I am fed up. And I'm not only fed up, I'm probably more fed up with people not just stepping back, opening their eyes.
Yeah.
And that's why they hate the term woke. When a brother says stay woke,
Yeah.
it means stay aware. That means understand. And a lot of them can't even give you the definition of it.
No.
But the has got to end, and we've got to stand up, wake up, and just look at those who are actually helping us. And right now, most of those people that are helping us are Democrats.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
it's not about the party. It's about being tactful, going with those who are looking out for us. Once we do that, then we take the next step. We're not on the same page. People don't understand how it happens. Brothers, soon as Obama gets in office, they're thinking that we can get reparations. They don't understand how the government works.
No.
They don't
Oh,
see any of that. And that,
no.
in my opinion, the idiocracy has to be put in check. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just don't. I mean, I'm searching for words because I am very speechless sometimes with people because that's the problem. I don't think a lot of people
Well,
understand things,
mm-hmm,
and their expectation of what's going to happen when they vote for somebody who happens to win that office,
mm-hmm.
is unrealistic, or they just don't understand exactly how the government works, like you said.
Yeah, politicians are good with, they get up on stage, they speak, makes people feel good. Hey, I like what this guy is saying, but have you looked at his record?
Right.
Have you looked at his actual policies? Have you gone to a site and run down all the things, see if that helps you? Like when I keep hearing the GOP, wanting to repeal Obamacare, which is the Affordable Care Act,
Right.
you got the people who are benefiting from it saying, yeah, get rid of it. But then when they don't have insurance, they were like, well, what's going on?
Right. That's what kills me when I hear
Yeah.
when I hear brother, they think, well, Obama didn't do anything really, to help me out, help out the community or whatever. I'm just like, okay, well, that's not true. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, the Affordable Care Act, if you don't understand how that helped out the whole country, let alone specifically the black community, then you don't understand you don't really understand what happened.
And weren't we complaining about things like that? See,
Yes.
we complain about things, and when we get it, we don't acknowledge that that was done. We
Right.
jump to something else. What is a situation that people have been complaining about for years in places like Flint, Michigan? The water.
Water. Right.
The water. So, what does Biden do? He puts an executive order in place to get rid of all the lead pipes.
Mm-hmm.
That not only helps black folks, but in those communities where you have black contractors who know how to do that,
Mm-hmm.
they're getting paid as well. So you have this influx of money, but you also are taking action against something that has hurt us.
Mm-hmm.
So Biden is trying to correct something, but it's not being talked about. So fighting all of that is just, when I keep hearing people talk about Biden and they try to say he didn't do anything, that's the DNC's fault. They need to be bragging about all the accomplishments. But they will allow people like your man, Jake Tapper, to write a book and push it on CNN and just talk about his mental decline. But they don't talk about that he was still getting done. But we don't hear that. They keep focusing on the mental decline, but they're not talking about the orange guy walking away from the mic, wearing a red hat, at his doing the commencement speech for West Point. They're not talking about the late night rants. Why is this dude just his ego? And I I'm really frustrated. So I'm at a loss. For me, I'm just like, people, why are we so stupid to this? When are we going to just use common sense?
Yeah. He is symptomatic of what of some of the stuff that happens in this country. He's out selling a book. I mean, he's at like it's like all these people after the Trump administration, like John Bolton and all these people who were talking about all the things that were going on in behind the scenes at the White House while they were happening, while it was destroying our country, and then they write about it afterward, but they don't say it while it's going on because they want to save it for their book. It's ridiculous that
Yeah.
they shouldn't do it. Jake Tapper, and likewise. Now, I don't know how constructive it is to put out a book like this now. I mean, other than the fact that he had this book to sell. I mean, this information that he could compile and put into a book. But the fact that he will to sell a book, he's willing to go on, and I'm glad that he'll go on some of these. Not glad, I mean, but I understand going on these outlets to try to sell your book, but to go on and be so deferent to these people, to sit up and like apologize to the Trump family and to some other things that he's done.
What was up with that?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with it, other than the fact that he's trying to sell a book, which is like it's terror. It's a terrible thing. You know what I mean? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he was somehow financially beholden through a publisher or through some whatever to say certain things. Who knows? I don't know.
These people are quick to sell their soul.
Oh yeah, all I know is that now the one clip, and granted, I know clips and all these things can be taken out of context, so I didn't watch the whole interview. And I hate agreeing with Megyn Kelly. I hate agreeing with because I despise Megyn. I despise her politics. I don't know the woman. I do like the fact that she sued Fox, but it seems like that didn't change her point of view about anything. When she told Jake Tapper, I saw a clip, again, might be out of context. She was telling Jake Tapper to look, all these stuff in your book, you knew before the election. So she's like, so why are you telling us now? When you should have been sharing that with the American people beforehand. That, and I agree with her there with that. If you're going to write a book about this stuff and you knew this beforehand and you didn't share it with the American people as a journalist, then you're just trying to sell a book.
Yeah. you're not truly being a
You're not
journalist.
truly being a
Yeah,
journalist. And
you're
I wouldn't
not.
have liked,
Yeah.
now if the president of the United States is in mental decline, if as a journalist sees this and has come to this conclusion as a journalist, and I understand that, Jake Tapper would have a lot to lose
Yeah, you would.
to report something like that, and it were somehow he couldn't prove it. It's like dancing on. Biden's alive, but to do that right now is like dancing on his grave. Like, oh, okay, he lost the election. Like the question is, if Biden won the election, would you have come out with this book?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah. But not only that, was he, you know, pushed to not talk about all of that. But when you hold all that so called information in quotation quotes, and then you put it in a book, you're just grifting. You're looking to get that payday.
You know how much Jake Tapper makes? $7 million a year. He's not gambling $7 million a year to be right. That's the problem that I have with some of these guys. And I'm not saying I would either. Okay, so I'm not trying to be holier than thou. But I would like to believe of myself. Now I'm sure he got a great big number for this book from a publisher to publish it. Mm-hmm. So it's all about money. That's what bothers me about this thing. Either keep your mouth shut and take your $7 million and be Jake Tapper, but don't take $7 million a year, not report it, and write a book and get the book money and try to, talk this stuff about Biden, put all this bad stuff out about Biden, which you should have told us ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And then go on these right-wing station outlets to have them to say, to basically they're busting him out. That's the other thing that gets me.
Yeah, like you just talked about, like Megyn Kelly.
Right, it's not like they're coming in and saying, oh, that's really interesting, Jay. They're coming in there and saying, we knew that already.
Right.
Y'all were pretending like it wasn't happening. We knew that already. And so it's I just don't understand it. I don't get it. But I mean, I do get it. It's about money.
And for me, I just think that the media pushed that so much that people embraced it. Once again, I'm about, are you getting the job done?
Right. No, he was able to he got this thing through, and he gets the credit. It's his administration. Biden's the man. I'm not saying that you're right. He wasn't totally incompetent. Right. Granted, that's true. But I'm not going, and I'm not a Biden basher. I am not. But I was very disappointed in how he comported himself during during the campaign, especially during the debate.
The debate was a disaster.
It was a disaster, and that's because I do believe he wasn't up for, because of his age and maybe other things, he was not up to the task. I don't think he necessarily should have run, but that's not the that's neither here nor there. He ran and he did what he did. But I think he was going through some things. I think it's pretty obvious he was going through some things mentally and physically that hampered him, and he was compromised in certain situations that didn't look good. And did that stop his administration from being effective? No. They passed a lot of great things, and and you're right, the Democrats need to stress that.
Going back to Jake's book and all this stuff happening behind closed doors, I think there's a situation where the cancer was already affecting him. I think that is something that, if anything was hidden, it would probably be the cancer. That could have been bothering him.
Okay, yeah. Whatever the case would be. We've had a president, one of the most successful presidents ever, who was suffering from a serious illness, and that's FDR. I mean, we had a president but it was a different time. I mean, he had polio, it was a different time. He didn't have 24/7 media. They weren't, most of the shots were still shots. They weren't a whole lot of, they weren't following these guys around with cameras, and there weren't all these types of things when FDR was around. He probably would have a hard time having, what did he have, 4 terms? If the media was like it is today. But do I think he could have done, I don't know about a second term, but during this first term, I think he did his job well. And I think he had a very successful presidency. I'm not downing him for that. But Um, I do have problems with the questions about media that chose not to report certain things that they may have been privy to, unless they were given a directive for national security reasons by the White House not to report them, which might have been the case.
Being a guardian of the truth, reporting things to the country and to the people that affect us directly, and him having physical issues that could end up affecting us. So when I look at that and I look at this crazy dude that's in the office now, there should be a bigger focus on his craziness
Oh, they
instead of what, but it's not happening.
yeah, that's
And
not happening.
yeah,
I agree with you
yeah,
there. I mean, as much as they were getting on Biden for his foibles and gaffes and all of the things he was showing, they should do the same with Trump. And they've been
yeah.
trying here and there. You'll see they'll try and then they stop instead of
I
just
think
being
those attempts are, I
yeah,
do.
yeah,
That's me. Yeah,
yeah. Well, they seem to some effect of them is BS because they haven't gone anywhere. But
hmm
I think it's apparent. Just as I said, I believe it was apparent that Biden was failing. I think it's obvious to me that I just don't think Trump is functioning on all cylinders, dude. I mean, even these tariff things, there are no rhyme or reason to them, and we
hmm
other there's no analysis of this thing done to them. It's like he's
hmm
just pulling numbers out of his behind, and you
yeah,
cannot run a country. You can't. We're the United States of America. We're supposedly the number one economy in the world, or we definitely are. You know what we do changes things worldwide. You can't just
hmm
wake up one morning and go, "I'm going to do a 50% tariff on steel," without even
yeah,
running numbers. I mean, that's the
yeah.
question. They don't ask him. Okay, what are the numbers on that? How is this
Mhm.
going to? He's like, I'm going to save U.S. Steel. How?
Yeah. You can't save U.S. Steel when you're putting a tariff on steel imports, and his constant line telling people that the other country pays the tariff,
Right,
and then you have Fox saying, "Yeah, he's right,"
right.
and then you have CNN not saying, "Well, that's not how it works at all."
Yeah. Well, no,
That that
no.
yeah.
I will say, in from media, I've seen media both CNN and MSNBC and other outlets, NBC News, and they've said it doesn't work that way. But it
Okay,
doesn't.
all right. I don't see it much, but
Yeah.
they're probably doing it now.
Yeah,
So yeah.
there's I have not seen one economist. I'm sure there's some out there. I've not seen one economist of note.
That's important of note.
Yeah, no, they have
Yeah,
credibility. There was
yeah,
there's credibility
credibility.
that
Yeah.
had, including the people that work for the Economist, the publication, the Economist, who said that tariffs done in this manner make sense or work the way that Trump has described them working. They don't work that way. The thing usually when you put a tariff on or make any type of economic decision like a tariff, you say, okay, if we put a 15% tariff on steel, then
Mm,
imports should go down this much because and will this will happen and that'll happen. They don't run any of those. They don't run
mm-mm.
any of those numbers. There are no
At all.
models. Somebody's
Right.
said, where are the economic models to where this is going? We don't
Mm,
know. And so this is like totally irresponsible. This is
mm,
crazy. And so that's why where I really have a problem with some of these, especially these conservative Wall Street Journal types. I know the Wall Street Journal is not really happy with Trump right now, but they seem to be like really louder. They're saying this is craziness. And
mm.
now so much so that we have, our trading partners and some of them are our security partners saying we are unreliable.
Yeah. Moody's downgraded the credit rating of the United States for the first time ever. Everything when people try to say he's good with business, I'm like, shut up. He's not. But he has a bigger megaphone than everybody else. So no matter how many times these economists and the people break down what he's not doing, for every one person that's bringing the facts, you got about 20 idiots who are saying that that's BS and twisting and putting in a narrative that spreads like cancer. And the truth is drowned out by the idiots, and the people that are listening to the idiots are those pro-black imposters who find every way in the world to complain about what we can do while not presenting anything from this side as an alternative choice to get results for us and to get back where we need to be.
Well, that's what ultimately is going to get traction, and I don't see that yet.
Mm-hmm.
In a loud enough voice or being presented. The the big Democratic push, unfortunately, is anti-Trump, which
Mm-hmm.
is, while legitimate, is
Mm-hmm.
not getting traction. People don't want to hear that anymore.
Right,
It's not
right,
moving people to go to the ballot box or to
yeah,
do anything else that's going to help our cause. So I don't know. You have to present a platform and a plan to
mm-hmm.
vote, to get people to vote for something, to be for
Right,
something,
right,
and um, what that is or what the right note to strike to get that moving, I don't know yet.
right,
Give me some
right.
time.
Right. Well, we're going to end right here. But
Right.
next time, there are a couple of things I want to talk about. And one thing, since we were just talking about what's going on with our nation and the orange guy trying to basically become a dictator, I want to kind of talk about Andor. A lot of people love the show. I did, you did.
Hmm.
I want to kind of talk about the metaphor. I'm going to talk about how Andor is a metaphor for what is happening now,
Hmm.
both socially, but more importantly, who controls the government
Hmm.
and where we were and how we're getting there. And I want to talk about all the aspects of Andor that shows, hey, look, that's happening right now.
Right.
And I think it can help people get an understanding of where we need to go and the type of mindset that we need to have to get past this nonsense. But that's where we at. And
Okay.
so when everybody check us out the next time, and everybody keep rocking.
All right.
My
Take
man
care,
Howard
man.
and Couch, we're both out. All right.